one of my beliefs is that in the future, everything we do with computers is going to go through AI. So right now, like I use my phone, I use apps, I use my laptop, I use devices, watch, buds, whatever, and I'm talking to like apps that humans wrote. I don't think anyone's talking to apps anymore. I think everyone in the future is talking to AI. We're
Mm.
talking, typing, looking at whatever, and then the AI itself is connecting to the data sources, the APIs, the MCPs, the applications. It's running your desktop if it needs to, a browser, all that kind of stuff.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest Impact of AI Explored. So we are doing our kind of end of year review. We have Brian Madden again. Brian has been on last year doing the same thing. So we're going to get kicked off. But Brian has recently, recent enough, moved roles and is now a futurist at Citrix. Brian, how are you doing? And what is a futurist?
Yeah. Thanks, James and Gershon. Thank you for having me back. I joined you I guess it was like a year ago when I was an independent consultant, which was code for between jobs. And we did the year interview, and I'm really super happy to be joining you again. You've been crushing it on the show. Obviously, you all know that. So I joined Citrix actually in February this year. So that's like 10, 11 months ago as a futurist. And what I do as a futurist, to be honest, it's not actually that different than what my role has been for the past 20 years, like as an industry analyst or kind of journalist or writer. I'm like looking at what's happening in the industry. Here's what's happening, summarize it, explain it. Why is this important? What do you need to know? What does this mean? What are the different companies doing? It's the exact same job, except instead of doing it about what is happening today, it's just like pivot slightly for what it looks like, in a year or 2 years or 5 years. But in 5 years, what's important? How does UC work? What are the companies? What are the issues? So it's really, how do I explain it? All that sort of thing. So at Citrix, I do not work on our product group, by the way. I do not do product strategy. I really do just like paint the picture of what the world is going to look like in 1 to 5 years and share that with all my colleagues so they can build, strategy and direction and how we're going to fit our products in and everything. And then, of course, I still go on stage and tell stories about what the future looks like and, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you were recently on stage at Microsoft Ignite doing it with Microsoft's Futurist, if I recall.
That was super awesome. Marco Castellana, who is a futurist at Microsoft. So the session we did was like 2 futurists walk into a bar and just like talk about the future of work. I have to say the Microsoft Ignite team changed our session title. that was the point of our session. It wasn't even about Microsoft or Citrix. It was just like, okay, here's what's happening. It's well, I guess this is what we'll talk about in the show today, but it's fun to sort of look at the trend lines and kind of just get your ruler out and draw the line and see what happens and like what's the world going to look like when AI scores 100%, Yeah.
We were at EUC Forum in London recently, and we did our predictions from 2024 and what we got right and what we got wrong. And what do we give ourselves? B+?
Yeah, B+. Yeah. We got some of them right, and we missed some big ones completely.
Yeah, we missed a couple of big ones, which, in fairness to us, like most things in AI, hadn't even been thought of. So one of the biggest one we missed was AI browsers. Neither of us saw that one coming or the impact it has had. And we've just released our latest episode, which me and Gershon talk about that because he's been using one quite a bit. And we talked about, as you would expect, all the good and the bad things about AI browsers. But the main kind of point we came to was they're great for productivity. They're an absolute security nightmare.
I mean, I think that's a lot of, call it prototype, a proof of concept. One thing that's interesting with AI versus other technologies is all of these AI labs and AI vendors they're doing their proofs of concept in public. Like we're going to put something out. It might be awful. I don't know. use it and tell us. So, there's really...
Don't care.
Yeah,
yeah,
don't care.
It's very much, we're not doing the whole DTAP the way we used to do. It's just, let's release it.
Yeah, like it's, we always make a joke about how in our society these days, there's all these product liability disclosures. Like, you can't even click whatever. Like you got pages and pages and pages of lawyer legalese and everything.
Which
everything
no one reads.
Right, of course. But it's funny how AI... like every AI box you see from all the vendors, it's like, amazing AI, ask us anything, star. Answers may be wrong. What world is this? Where that's fine. The companies are like $1 trillion companies are like, yeah, that seems fine. That seems fine. Ship it.
Yeah. AI may not be correct in its answers
everything
or something like
say,
that. Yeah. Please check your work. It's like,
by the way, and if your credit card bounces, we're shutting off your access. Like you're still paying for this, to be clear, regardless of what it does. Could you imagine in consulting if I'm like, here's a report that you just paid me $100,000 to do for this massive project. It might be all wrong. I don't know. Later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing. There actually were some consulting firms who put out reports like that. And there's been two things. One, there's been errors in the reports. But the other is the customer knows that the consulting firm is using AI and has said, hold on, you're using AI. I want a 50% reduction in my fee. Because you're not doing the work.
You really get into, like, what are you paying for?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is this also, it's not just consultants, it's sort of like all knowledge work. So, we touched on this the last few times that we talked. We're all knowledge workers. Most of our listeners are knowledge workers. So we're paid for like our brain, basically. Like we're not paid to do physical things. So we're paid for our brains to think, essentially. And, if I have AI and that, I'm using AI to be more productive. Well, what does more productive mean? Like if it's a task I could do in 2 hours, I now do in 1 hour. What do I do with that extra hour? Do I do I double the amount of work I do? Oh, I can do 2 tasks now instead of 1. Do I do the 1 task, but like do it twice as good because I can do it in half the time? Do I go home?
Slack off and go watch Netflix or something?
Yeah, I just did at Microsoft Ignite last week. So Citrix was there as a sponsor, and like we one of the things we did in our booth is we had this survey. It was like 4 questions about like AI in the workplace. It was just a very simple like engagement survey. And one of the questions we asked is like, if AI saves you an hour a day,
what do you do with the hour?
What do you do with it? And the overwhelming, that had the highest response of any question of like any individual item was like, I'm taking back personal time. So I think the blog post I wrote, because also what's cool is we asked people, and I'm assuming that most of we didn't take any demographic.
You also had a coffee station, which was really clever because coffee was so hard to get at Ignite.
Yeah, it was super. Like I definitely loved that. We assumed that most of the people who responded to the survey were IT professionals because it was at Ignite, and we also asked, who controls AI in your organization, like the worker, the CEO, the CIO, CISO, whatever. And that was another one. Overwhelmingly was the worker, like the end user controls AI. So it's kind of funny that that's IT pros admitting that the workers are actually in charge. So the blog post I wrote about the results was like, IT admits workers are in charge of AI. Workers admit they use it to go home at 5. Which is like, I love that. I love the idea of workers, like kind of, I mean, it seems like just all of us as knowledge workers in society have been kind of asked to do more with less and taking on more and more, and you have less support at the companies and you just have to do more and more and more. And now we finally have technology that can like help us work as knowledge workers, and companies are like, oh great, all of our workers are more productive and we'll get 20% more work. Like, on what planet is that realistic? I think every actual worker is like, oh my gosh, I can finally cut back, not be working all night because I don't have to stay up all night doing expense reports because the AI can do it for me or whatever. So,
where's the AI that can do expense reports? I haven't found it yet. If anyone knows of one, put it in the comments.
I think we're darn close.
I'm sure we are, like, and we're gonna come and talk to that because obviously we had this podcast last year, and we talked about a lot of things. And one of the biggest things we talked about was that 2025 was going to be the year of agentic AI. I'd like to. What's your view? I don't think it was. I think it was the dawn of agentic AI. I don't think it was the year of agentic AI.
Fair. I'm gonna answer in two parts. The first one, let's look at pure math. I know at when we saw each other last, it was literally a year ago from like this week almost. When we saw you talk last year, I was talking about these open source benchmarks that track, like computer using agents, and it's a bucket of like OS world. It's 369 tasks, and the median human can get 72% of the tasks done successfully. So that's kind of like your human level like bar. And at the time, the best AIs was like 40%. And I'm like, yeah, but it used to be 30, it used to be 20. Well, guess what? The best one now is 76. Humans are 72. It was 70 last month. It was 68 last month before that. It was 60 before that. If you go to, depending on when you're watching this, if you go to the OS world, the top one, the certified result is 70, but you can see the uncertified, they're in the pipeline. And AGI Inc. got 76%. And it's all open source. You can click it, you can see their model, you can try it, you can run the test yourself. And so now, of course, I think we talked about this last time. Just because an AI knows how to use a computer as good as a human, this doesn't mean all of our jobs are replaced. Like, it doesn't know, the human still needs to direct like what the AI is doing. But the concept of an AI, like, hey, go do my expense report, blah, blah, blah. I think we're probably pretty close to where it can do that by using your computer, because it has to use your computer, because probably not your expense system has like all the APIs and backend. So using your browser, using your computer, whatever. So I do think it's like the year of the agentic AI, because hey, like it's 2025, and yes, computer using agents are able to use your computer as good as the median human. Now, what you said, James, about it's like the entry to, or the preview. Well, I forget how you said it. Like we're just the dawn of. Yeah. Okay, so I agree hugely with that. I was at a conference called MACON, the Marketing AI Conference, in Cleveland, Ohio. It's not just for marketers. That's just the name of the conference, but it's really like an AI conference, but more for like users of AI and businesses, not AI scientists. I gotta tell you, I was blown away by how, like, I would say like basic I thought the conversations were, even in the speaker room. Where I was like working on my slides, of course, right before I was going on stage, I overheard the other speakers, and they were like, the conversations they had, I thought were so basic. And even all the conversation they had with the audience and at the party and receptions, and even the opening keynote, which is a good talk, but I was like, my God, like this is like so base level. And it sort of occurs to me, like we all live in the AI bubble. So like, we look at technology that's available. Like I released that roadmap earlier this year of like, here's the phases of evolution of how humans interact with AI. It was like, basic prompting, then like treating it like an advanced colleague. Then it got into, like watching AI do your work. Then AI user, whatever. It just goes through the whole thing. Yeah. And I'm like, man, boom, 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 boom. We're like knocking off these phases. Well, it's like, just because the technology exists, let's say to be like phase 5, it doesn't mean every human is there. Like most workers are like, oh, I just use ChatGPT till he helped me write an email, which it's like, that's the most basic thing that kind of has existed for like 2 or 3 years. So the technology, the front edge, the frontier of the technology is really moving fast ahead, but that doesn't mean that individual workers are there yet. So I feel like,
do you see that gap increasing, that the frontiers are running even faster and the people struggle to keep up and losing their ground slowly, so that there's a bigger gap coming?
I would say yes, but it also sort of depends on how you measure, because like we were just saying, all of these AI labs, or all the companies, even Google and Microsoft and Amazon, they're not AI labs, but doing a lot with AI. All these big vendors using AI are like very much releasing like beta, experimental, proof of concept type stuff. So it's like the frontier is advancing, and it might seem like it's fading, like getting farther and farther into the future, but the very tip of the spear in the frontier is just not that good yet. So because it is like so experimental, so even like computer using agents okay, so you go to OS World, you can see all the results of computer using agents. Every one of them has a hyperlink. These are models you can download, you can play with them, you can run them locally. Why are you using them today? It's like, well, you got to do this and install this and hook this up here. And how does it hook in? And how do you kick it off? It's just a lot of like baling wire and duct tape and getting it together, which is how all technologies, like the cloud was like that before, you know? And then now we have all these like integrated directors and this one click deployment. So it's like the cutting edge is sort of like what's possible, but it's not practical. And so I think for most workers, they need AI to be practical and like do what they expect it to do.
Consumable.
Yeah, it has to be like consumable for regular humans, not for us nerds.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and I think we talked about this before, and agentic AI may come in and it may be like just in the background and it just does something and a worker doesn't really notice it, or they don't need to either. Like, so I think that's where we're going to see more development of, and we talked about this before in another podcast, like the way they got kind of buy-in for AI was they took the most monotonous task and automated it. And that just drove adoption levels through the roof. Because, you know, there obviously is a fear factor of people going, oh, if we introduce AI, that's my job gone, and so on and so forth. So, but I think, yeah, around the whole thing with agentic AI, it potentially could just be running in the background and nobody even knows or cares.
I mean, you know, didn't Steve Jobs, or I don't know if it's Steve Jobs, said like the best technology is indistinguishable from magic. Maybe that was Carl Sagan or something, but whoever said that. But it's kind of it. Like I talk about with people, like AI, we need the iPhone moment for AI. Like remember when 3G first came out? And it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to revolutionize everything. You can like pay for parking at parking meters because it'll be, you know, the data's everywhere. Yeah, that happened, but we all have flip phones. So like no one was paying for parking on their flip phone. But then the iPhone came out. And no one thought about like no one made a decision like, hey, I'm going to stop carrying coins to pay for parking and I'm going to instead start using my phone. It's just like, it just sort of happened without people
organically.
Yeah. Like it
grew.
was available and it was obvious. And I feel like that's what needs to happen. I mean, that's what will happen with AI is where people are like, you know, one of my beliefs is that in the future, everything we do with computers is going to go through AI. So right now, like I use my phone, I use apps, I use my laptop, I use devices, watch, buds, whatever, and I'm talking to like apps that humans wrote. I don't think anyone's talking to apps anymore. I think everyone in the future is talking to AI. We're talking, typing, looking at whatever, and then the AI itself is connecting to the data sources, the APIs, the MCPs, the applications, it's running your desktop if it needs to, a browser, all that kind of stuff. And no one is going to say like, hey, today I'm going to decide to never use Excel again and only use AI. But there are times like Claude now can work with Excel files directly. So before, if I needed like AI to use Excel, it would like to do something with Excel, it would actually run Excel and click and operate Excel. And now with Claude, it's like, I can just give me the file, dude. I'll do whatever you need. And it's like, well, I don't want to talk to my files. I want to see the spreadsheet. I'm like, yeah, it can, man, if it can make a deep fake of like the Pope wearing a jacket, it can make a pie chart, dude. Like it'll generate the UI that you want, that you need in that moment. Exactly. And so it's not like you're going to decide to use Excel less. It's just that you're talking to your AI to do things and it's going to be like, oh, let me pipe up Excel for you. And maybe one day it just shows you the data and it didn't actually use Excel for that. And so like technically your use of Excel goes down. But you didn't decide to use Excel less and AI more. It just sort of happened that way. And
yeah, I get what you're saying about the whole iPhone moment. And I think part of that is models that actually run locally on things like our mobiles. That I think that, you know, if you've got your phone and it has a model running and essentially running the phone locally, and I know that's being worked on at the moment because my neighbor works for Intel and that's what he's working on essentially. So,
buddy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You're not convinced?
First of all, I'm out of my league here. This is not my area of expertise, but I don't see why models have to run locally. I think it's like, oh, we can have GPUs and NPUs and GPUs in phones. Like, can we find something to use them for? But like, hey, man, we use Microsoft Office at work. Big surprise, big shock.
Oh, yeah.
And we have the Copilot, whatever you pay for. So we have like the good Copilot. And there's the Copilot app on my phone. And but within the past month or two, it got like it's now hooked into the full Microsoft Graph. So I can actually ask Copilot about emails, about Teams meetings, about calls, and it's able to go into my email and do things. And so when I walk the dog now, I put my buds in and I have a conversation with Copilot about my day. Like, what's my calendar? Like, just walk through the calendar. What's on this email? Like, read this email. And I'm actually triaging the emails, and it can do things like, okay, like flag that, like it'll add flags to things. And so when I walk around, I'll spend 20 minutes, like literally talking to Copilot. It's a local Copilot app on my phone, but it's not running on my phone. I have like a kind of an old iPhone. I don't even know what model it is. It still has a lightning port. It's not running on my phone. And the audio is going to the cloud, I assume. I don't know. It's I don't know where it's going. But it's funny because I'm using the Copilot app to like do my email. I'm not using Teams. I'm not using Outlook. I still use Teams and Outlook, but before, when I would have been walking down the street like this and like walking into people, I'm a different kind of jerk. I'm the jerk that's talking to himself instead of a jerk that's like going like this.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying, and we definitely have seen the evolution of things like Copilot and the integration of all of these applications together, and you're not caring, you're not going into the individual application, you're just going into the AI and say, just go talk to that application, and we will see more and more of that, I think.
Yeah, it really is like having an assistant. Like if you have like an assistant at work, what expense system do you use? I'm like, I don't know. Uno does it for me. Is that thanks?
yeah.
But I guess in the same way, like like I don't care when with AI, if it can plug into all my applications, like I'm talking to the AI, and then it's doing these things in the back. Like, hey man, you got access to my APIs and all my stuff. Like, do whatever you need to do. I don't care what you do. Here's what I need. You figure out the details.
Yeah,
and give me the results.
Yeah, and give me the result,
exactly,
and then I'll critique it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like working with a human colleague. Really, truly.
Yeah. Just peer review stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you go, no, that's absolute nonsense. Doesn't sound anything like me. Stop talking. Like, what I find, obviously, being a European is like AI talks like a tech bro, and you need to train it to stop talking like a tech bro.
I know every podcast plays the game about what AIs are you using now, and so I don't want to get into that, but I will say the Claude 4.5, Claude 4.5, like, holy moly, did it nail like my voice and like my style of operation. Like, you don't really need
have to add custom instructions to get that, or
no, but what I'll do, well, sort of. So I don't do a lot with custom instructions because I found that I had some custom system prompts like in ChatGPT in the earlier days where I said like just the facts, no personality. I am a IT professional and I understand you are computer software, not alive. Do not try to fake being alive. And I had that for like 6 months and maybe kind of forgot about it. And then people were talking about different things that ChatGPT was doing and how it's behaving, but mine wasn't behaving that way because I had these restrictions I had put onto it. And so I sort of thought, I don't almost want to have the restrictions because I want to see like natively what these models do and maybe almost hide new features. You suppress new features because you're telling it to not do things. So I've actually backed away from not using system prompts. But what I do instead is I have documents. I actually have them like in Markdown files. So like make it as fast as process as possible, like not even a Word, just like an MD file. And so like, for example, every time I write a blog post, I just take all the text of that blog post, put it in this MD file, this Markdown file. And so now I've got, 40,000 words of my blogs from the past year. That's like, this is how I write. And so if I'm trying to do something I want to write in my style, I'm like, here's a reference to my style. And so I'm dropping it into each chat every single time, even though I think ChatGPT like remembers and knows enough stuff. Claude too. I always drop it in every time because I don't want it to assume anything.
Yeah, and I've done particularly in ChatGPT, I've taken all of that kind of stuff, and then I've just created a project, and then it knows to reference it. So then I don't have to drop it in every time. So
Yeah,
that's how,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool. So let's look at 2026.
Yeah.
What are we thinking? What's going to be big? Obviously, we've talked about it a little bit. Agentic AI is going to go full on in 2026. I think we're going to have agentic AI overload in 2026 because you can just see it. Even if we look at what was discussed at Ignite, it was agentic this, agentic that, and yeah, that's my number one by a absolute mile.
Yeah, I think when we look at, I agree. First of all, what you're saying. I think when we look at predictions, we have to sort of like there's a bunch of different lenses to look at them, like what exists in technology, what are like human workers actually doing, and then a third one that I have is like what are companies doing? Because I was actually just leading a workshop here in Paris yesterday, and we had some executives from some of our larger customers just having like a roundtable think tank around AI in the workplace and like what are you focused on, what matters, and these are folks from all over, not just France, and like today companies just aren't worried about AI at the like worker level. Cause to me, again, I'm kind of living in the future, like not even with my job, but just like I listen to AI podcasts like all the time and like, like you guys. And I'm like, oh my gosh, agents are real. People can automate their own jobs. Yeah, no one's doing that. I mean, like, sure, 1% nerds are doing that, but you could always do that with PowerShell anyway. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
so
Like
you can always
I
automate
think,
away your own job.
yeah. If we look at it from our kind of like EUC IT professional background, if you do comparison of what we're looking at and what the rest of normal workers are looking at, but it's always been that way. We've always been like as IT professionals, particularly in EUC, we've always been on the cutting edge of everything that's going on. So it makes sense that that's where we are at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So when people say, "Oh, I as you said, like I think your PowerShell analogy, NAN is probably the AI equivalent."
Totally. I have one person I know who will remain nameless who decades ago literally automated a big part of their own job with like PowerShell, and that same person is the one who introduced me to N8N to how they're automating a big part of their job currently. And so the reason I mention this is like IT departments today aren't super worried about like the workers bringing in AI. It's kind of like falls under the same umbrella of like general BYO. Like, yeah, we have guardrails. It's pretty good. If someone wants to really record something on their phone and feed it into ChatGPT, there's like, it's no different than them like emailing things to their own Gmail account and typical consumerization of IT. So I feel like IT departments today, like in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, aren't you worried about knowing what an agent is doing, what a human is doing? Isn't this so important? Like blah, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, nah.
Yeah,
So
no,
I think,
I agree because very much so. Obviously, like you, I was at Ignite and people were coming up having conversations about our solutions and their problems, were still logins, applications, the normal stuff. No,
the regular boring IT problems.
Absolutely, yeah. There's still an issue, like in 2025 that we're still having login performance issues. We're still having issues with applications and profiles, all of that kind of stuff. And as you said, like IT departments, AI, that's kind of in some ways that's kind of above their pay grade. That it has to come from higher up, or as you said, it's being done on a BYO level, and hopefully people are not taking NDA information and feeding it to ChatGPT, but
they probably
all
will.
are. So, but the reason I mention this is one of my things is I think what's going to happen in 26. I actually had to look at the calendar. I'm like, wait, 27. No, wait, what year is it now? Okay,
it's 26
next year.
Yeah, we're talking about 2026. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think in 26, IT departments are going to start to wake up to like, oh, Like I think as it said, there's the frontier edge of AI. Then there's where workers are, and workers today are really just on the basics of like, I'm using it to help me with emails. Maybe I'm doing some deep research and helping me like write things, but it's like kind of more basic. But I think as the technology becomes more pervasive, both what is available to companies and also what's just plain available to workers, and how well and how easy it works in their personal lives, of course they're going to start using that at work more. So I think one of the big predictions that we'll see like a year from now is IT departments starting to wake up. They're like, oh, this is an actual like pretty big threat that I have to worry about. Because so right now, like yes, companies are worried about AI, but they're worried about AI like FOMO. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be behind. There's a quote I love, which I can't take credit for, but like every company is trying not to be the blockbuster video in the Netflix documentary. So
Ooh, that's a good one.
I love it. Yeah.
That I like that. I like that. Might have to steal that. That's
please.
good.
I stole it myself, and I don't even know
Yeah,
from who. But
no. It was like the one I had previously. I have tried to find out who it is, but it was like the AI won't replace your person using AI will. That one. Yeah, but I like that one about Blockbuster, and you could switch that for the video chain here in Ireland was called Extravision. So
right, the keyword was called.
Yeah,
but it's so companies today have FOMO, and they're like, well, we got to do something. So like, I don't know, a chatbot, I guess, which is like just enterprise search with the fancier front end.
We see a lot of companies using that kind of thing to start. Yeah, using chatbots, using Copilot.
Yeah,
but through agentic, complete automating everything or AIing the whole process.
Yeah,
it's a bit scary.
Yeah, exactly. And like also the technology is moving too fast. I mean, there's that famous example of, it doesn't matter, but I think it's Bloomberg who spent $10 million kind of building a custom model or fine tuning and training a model to do whatever they needed. And then the next public release of ChatGPT came out, and it just did natively everything they needed and was done. And they're like, well, I guess we just lit that money on fire and wasted all that time. So people get gun shy. Like, why do I want to like IT projects take longer to implement than the technology takes to improve that can do intrinsically better than what they're trying to do anyway. So a lot of IT departments are just like, I don't know. We'll look for the low hanging, like what's the low hanging fruit, which is, coding agents. I think every company in the world is now using some kind of AI coding. They're using like building chatbots, which is fine, but this is just dancing around the edges. This is not the strategic stuff yet. But I think as the big, I think a big change this year though is companies will recognize, hey, the fact that our workers are using AI in ways that we don't really understand or approve actually affects us as a business. Now, I don't know that they're going to know what to do about that. And there's a million different conversations about what one would do in that situation. But even right now, IT is just kind of like, they're not thinking about that. And I think that's going to be a big thing we're going to see this year as people wake up to that.
I was just going to say, Gerjan, we were talking about this the other day, and it kind of opened my eyes when we were talking about the AI browsers and access to, using a local AI browser to access the corporate environment and the challenges that presents.
Yeah, it's really scary because I was playing around with Comet and Atlas, and you can give it your credit card details and it can purchase stuff for you. But you can also give it your company credentials, and then it can log on to your Office 365 web browser and set appointments, which is really cool. But it could also do a gazillion other things when accessing the browser in the company context.
You have to use an enterprise browser. Every public service announcement, all companies on planet Earth, you must use an enterprise browser.
Yes, please.
And that doesn't have to be a dedicated one. Like at Citrix, we use Chrome Enterprise Premium and like have extensions for that. Microsoft has Edge for Business. All of these. And for those who don't know, this is just the regular browser. Like I think every browser now, well, it doesn't matter. Edge, Chrome, you just log on with your work credential. I mean, you can make it so that your work applications are only available to like your work profile where you're logged on as work, and then it has like DLP. You can like screenshot prevention, copy and paste prevention. Like it's got all these kinds of things. And so if you are just having your work available from any random web browser, that's all in AI right now. And I feel like that's, and this is a nice solution because enterprise browsers have been around for like 5 years. They're very mature. They're like easy enough to operate and to use. They're available from lots of different vendors. But that is, I would say, is a good first step for folks. It's not even an AI thing, but if you want to rein in what your rando users are doing, you have to make all your work apps so they're only available on an enterprise browser, or make it deploy via VDI and only available via VDI. There's other ways to do it, but the point is you have to. The days of just like any old random browser from any random device, those days are over.
Long gone. Yeah, it was really scary because if you don't do that at the front gates and you just say, okay, Comet is Chromium, so any Chromium-based browser will do, then you're setting up the floodgates for...
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing it for good, there's nothing, not a big problem. But once a hacker gets into that browser and can do stuff using AI, then your whole environment is up for grabs.
Yeah, because there's also like you just can't block stuff. I mean, you can't even look at endpoint protection really because there are tools now that are open source you can install onto a Raspberry Pi where you plug that Raspberry Pi into your laptop and it emulates a keyboard and mouse. It literally lies on the USB handshake and says, I'm a keyboard, I'm a mouse. And then you plug in the HDMI and it looks like a display, but it's actually taking it. The AI is hooked into the Pi, not your device. So you have a corporate laptop, locked down, secure, and as long as USB is on, you don't have super glue in there. I mean, you plug it in and it's a keyboard, it's a mouse, it's a monitor. It looks just exactly like a worker plugging their laptop into a docking station, and like the docking station has the AI and is doing all the work. It doesn't matter. I mean, there are ways around that with like HTTP. There's ways to get around that, but the point is, most people, I'm like, well, I have like endpoint analytics turned on, so like I'm safe. I'm like, no, you're not. We have AI now.
Yeah, so that's the scary one. So we're talking about 2026 prediction. My prediction is going to be the year of the AI browser. That all these stuff that you can do automatically is going to skyrocket. Even when Microsoft is going to do the Copilot version of that inside of Edge, and that's going to be a game changer on the enterprise.
Yeah, that exists now.
Market.
Yeah.
And
people will start using
limited preview, I think. Mm-hmm. Do you have limited preview?
Well, we use Chrome Enterprise Premium in my company, so
yeah. Then you get that stuff, but then it's going to be a real game changing in the market, because then it can do stuff. You can just ask it to do stuff, go away, and you get a prompt on your phone when it's ready. I was showing James, you can do a comment. I can search for Nike sneakers, and I can say cheapest one, black, and as a search, and put them in the basket, and I get a prompt on my phone saying, "I found your sneakers. Click here to buy."
I do really like that all the AI platforms that we're calling them now, they're not chatbots. I mean, they're like so much more than that. So like AI platforms, I guess.
Yeah.
I like that they're all multimodal. So you start the conversation on your desk, you move it to mobile on your earbuds, you come back to display on the screen, whatever. Like you really can start that conversation here. And then when it comes back, it buzzes you in the pocket and picks up right where you left off when you're out. So again, it's like a coworker who can use email or call you or Teams in all these different ways on all these devices.
Yeah. It's an incredible year. Do you have any other predictions that you see 2026 maybe going to 2027?
I mean, to me, so I released that roadmap for like human AI interaction, and so like to what you were saying, James, earlier, we're gonna see more AI in more places, connecting in more ways. Like everyone is putting MCP servers and everything. Microsoft they had like 30 separate announcements that had like MCP involved in these announcements. And it really is like...
Is there any security on those MCP servers?
Again, I think we've established we don't care. Although to be fair, like if the
what did I was reading an article by a mutual friend of ours, Andrew Morgan, and he called them Python honeypots.
Oh my God, and his stuff is great. He's got some really funny ones on that, but don't let great be the enemy of good or whatever. Like MCP is fine enough. Yeah, there's plenty of implementations that are done poorly. And yes, there's a lot more that could be done into the protocol specifications to make it operate differently. But you have to look at like MCP doesn't enforce. Like MCP could be very basic and could be implemented very poorly, but that doesn't mean that all MCP is bad. Like you can do MCP also on a way and where it's authenticated and it's kind of working like any sort of API. And so like when Microsoft approaches something, it's not necessarily dangerous just because it's MCP, which is usually dangerous.
Yeah.
So I think that's I don't mind MCP per se. Like a lot of protocols that became standards, people thought were garbage early on. And there'll be MCP 1.1, it'll be fixed, and then 1.2, there'll be the one everyone uses or whatever. So I think we'll get there. But yeah, it's really, I don't know that I foresee anything drastically changing. Like to me, the next years are clear. I said I did that roadmap of the human to AI interface and like how workers are going to be using it, whether it's worker led or company provided. Like this is how our interaction as humans with AI will evolve over the years. I think there's a similar version of that, which is like from the organization, like their AI maturity level, with how comfortable they are with their workers working with these AIs. We've definitely learned that, and I think maybe this will maybe become more clear in 26. There's going to be multiple models all talking to each other. Like I think what Microsoft announced at Ignite around Work IQ is really cool. Work IQ is this a concept like a lot of these LLMs have platforms have connectors to connect into different applications. And it's like, oh, great, I'm going to use my own LLM and just connect it into all these different things. And, we'll like run some DLP or NetScaler or something on these things to make it secure. But Microsoft's like, you can't really get the full context of what you need through like a random connector because AI wants context. And if I give all the context that the AI needs through the connector, well, I've just like exfiltrated all that information because AI never forgets too. So like, it's just everything I went out the door. So that's the wrong approach. We have to flip that. And Work IQ says instead of a connector, it's more like the agent that's running like within your Microsoft graph and in your secure Microsoft environment. And it's almost more like an agent to agent kind of thing where the worker is trying to do something and is asking for all these files. It's like, imagine going to the library and be like, I want this, please give me all these files. And the librarian is like, back up. What are you trying to do right now? Oh, you just want to find this? Wait right here. I will go through all my files and figure out because it's the agent running internally that's already secure and trusted, and it will do everything, and then it'll send you back the results that you need. So I think the idea of like we can't connect all enterprise data sources to all other enterprise data sources because it'll be a security nightmare, but we're going to have agents running inside these things in the proper context that respect all the rules and security permissions and everything, and DLP and all that. So I think it's going to be a lot of these things talking to each other. So I think what's going to really be clear in this next year also is that like there's not an AI in a company. It's like a bunch of little AIs that are doing little things. They're all sort of connecting and talking to each other.
So it's the year of the multi-agent approach. That's coming. So one on top, and that's going to talk to everything and get all the information and then present it in a way the user can use it.
Yeah. And then I guess the other things, I guess like two more random thoughts about next year. Number one, I think Jeff Bezos always talks about like the best way to like, if you're trying to predict the future, it can be hard to guess what might change, but think about what assumptions are going to stay the same. So this is the same stuff we talked about last year, why I advocate that AI is going to enter the worker environment. Like we're not going to change all of our workflows to work for AI. We're going to make AI use the environment that we already have because we already have like businesses. There's so much compliance and regulation and all these kinds of things. I can't have AI in a black box that I don't even know what it's doing. I need if I have some process I want to automate, I want the AI to use my existing tools, even if it's a desktop or a browser, and use that and run in that environment. By the way, I can turn on session recordings. So if it does something weird, I can like literally watch the video and rewind it and see what happened. So I think what will stay the same is, the pace of adoption. It's like how we talked about like in the 90s when web applications were new. And it's like, oh my God, you get all these great like we have to rewrite all of our applications, all of our Windows apps, rewrite them to be web apps. It's like, that's cool. It's going to take like 20 years, which like 30 years of token or something like that. Sure, it'll get there, but this is like, there's not going to be an AI that drops in and rebuilds a whole company overnight and all the processes change. Like Windows apps, Windows desktops, app deployment, web applications, authentication, all that stuff that we have today, the way business works is still going to be the way business works in 2026. So I think the changes will be like, I don't want to say less impactful, but like a lot of the ways we operate today are still going to be the ways we operate at the end of next year.
I think that's fair.
So it's more an AI evolution than a revolution.
And then the final thing I think I'll say is everyone's talking about like an AI market crash. Are we in an AI bubble? And I get asked this question like every event that I do, and the way I look at it is, hey, probably there's gonna be some kind of market crash just generally because it's been like 20 years since the last one, and they kind of happen every so often, and there's a lot of signals and all this kind of stuff. But remember that like the financial market crashing doesn't mean the technology is no good. Like in the 1990s .com crash, like pets.com crashed because no one was buying dog food through the mail in those days. Like they hadn't, but today, OpenAI has 800 million weekly users. So, even if enterprises, and you see all these headlines like, oh, there's no value in AI and enterprises is not getting return on investment, and does this really even matter? I got 800 million users to say it matters. Like you all know, everyone listening to this knows AI majorly changes the way that we do our work as individual knowledge workers. And I don't care if OpenAI, well, they're not public, but whatever. Like, I don't care if there's a million ankle biter AI companies or only like 5 big ones. I don't care if the valuation of NVIDIA goes from 5 trillion to 1 trillion. I still really love using like ChatGPT, and I use it all the time, and I'm going to keep on using it all the time, regardless of what the stock market says it does. So another prediction is, there will be a massive crash. There will be a massive like reshuffling evaluations that will bankrupt a whole lot of companies. People are going to say, I told you AI was fake and the sky is falling. And I'm going to say, just because evaluations got crazy doesn't mean this technology doesn't have real impact. And I predict that I will be using AI and interacting with it even more 12 months from now than I do today.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. Like, we know a lot of these companies are, ChatGPT wrappers, and their valuations, some of them are like vaporware, and their valuations are off the charts. Like, so I think there'll be a kind of a resync around that, and we'll see all of those kind of go away because the top platforms are already doing the majority of what they do. So yeah, I think that's how the correction will happen. Yes, we'll all still be using AI next year. It's not going to go away. It ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, even if the stock market loses 99% of the value, the technology still exists and still is real.
And as long as people pay for it, the company will survive. That's also what the devaluation does.
And like,
well, let's not hope it's Brian's, prediction of 99% of the stock market, because then people will struggle to pay for things.
Hey, I'm not like market do what market do. I mean, like, there's not much. We're passengers,
Yeah.
But it's it's interesting too, because I wrote a blog post earlier this year where it said like, hey, even if all AI progress stopped today, enough technology already exists for AI to fundamentally change the way that all knowledge work is done. And even if like investment stops and we run out of money for new data centers, and what if we only have to keep all the stuff we have today? Well, models are getting better, they're getting more efficient, they're getting like 90% cheaper per token per year and everything like that. And so even if like there's no new GPUs deployed, which like that's unlikely, but let's say even if that isn't, no new GPUs exist, AI is still going to get more efficient. It's going to get better. It's going to get cheaper, and more people can use it for more things.
Yeah, and Ethan Mollick backs up exactly what you just said as well. So he has said that several times.
Yep.
So he seems to know what he's talking about.
Yeah. I blogged that like 6 months ago. I just want to point out. Read my blog. We're living in the future.
You were here first. So, and with that, Brian, I think we've come to an awesome conclusion of 2025 and all the things that happened, and good predictions for 2026 and where we are going. So thank you for your time and for your insight, Brian. Hope to pick your brain again next year. Let's make it a recurring one. because James and I are going to do this for 10 years, James. What's the prognosis?
As long as people listen, we'll do it. So
exactly.
I definitely have more than 10 years left of my career, so I'm on board.
I'm only 49, so I ain't going anywhere.
Yep.
We got some Christmases left in our working life.
Absolutely.
So, and with that, thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we wish you a Merry Christmas already, because when this is released, it's just before Christmas, and we'll see you all again next year. So thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.